Jack Dutton's death shook the Yellowstone universe to its core. It wasn't just a loss, it was devastation. A young love story, torn apart just as it was blooming. Fans wept, hearts broke, and in the chaos of bloodshed and tragedy, all eyes stayed locked on Jack's sacrifice. But what if we told you that wasn't the real heartbreak? What if the true emotional gut punch wasn't in the gunfire or the grave, but in the silence that followed? Because while Jack died a hero's death, it was Elizabeth Dutton who was truly abandoned. Her final moments in 1923 weren't loud. They weren't tragic in the cinematic sense. They were quiet. So quiet you might have missed them. A woman grieving, pregnant, shattered, walked away from the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch, and no one said a word. No one ran after her. No one offered a hand. No one even asked where she was going. And in that silence was the loudest heartbreak of all. Elizabeth Dutton walked away from the Yellowstone Ranch not with a scream, not with rage, but with the kind of quiet devastation that hits harder than any bullet ever could. She was broken, pregnant, abandoned. Her eyes were empty, her heart in pieces, and not a single soul stopped her. But here's the part that shakes you to your core. She wasn't just walking away from a family. She might have been walking away with its future. Because what if inside her, the legacy of the Duttons still lived? An unborn child, a heartbeat, a bloodline. The next chapter in this epic American saga may not have died with Jack Dutton. It might be growing inside the woman everyone forgot. Think about it. All the Duttons, Jacob, Kara, Spencer, they fought tooth and nail to hold on to this land, to preserve their legacy, to keep the Yellowstone name alive through every gunfight, every betrayal, every storm. But in the end, it might not be any of them who carry the torch. It might be her, Elizabeth. And the way she vanished, that wasn't just a loose end. That was a thread carefully planted by Taylor Sheridan. We're not just looking at a side character here. We could be looking at the matriarch of the next generation, the missing link between the blood-soaked battles of 1923 and the brutal politics of John Dutton, III's Montana. But the most haunting part? The Duttons didn't even look back. No one checked on her. No one chased her down. Jack, her husband, her love, her anchor died in the dirt. And the ranch didn't just lose a son that day. It lost sight of something far more precious, the future. So we ask again, what happened to Elizabeth Dutton? Because the silence around her is too loud to ignore, the lack of closure too deliberate. Taylor Sheridan is many things, but careless isn't one of them. Every word, every glance, every absence in the Yellowstone universe means something. And Elizabeth's disappearance, it's practically screaming at us now. What if her story didn't end? What if it's just beginning? Picture this, a young widow carrying the child of a Dutton, cast out into a brutal world without protection, without power, without a name. But she doesn't crumble. She survives, she adapts, she fights, and through sheer will, she gives birth not just to a baby, but to a legacy. A legacy the world has no idea is coming. It's the kind of story Yellowstone was built for: grit, heartbreak, survival, vengeance, legacy. And it's hiding right under our noses. Because let's face it, the most powerful players in this universe aren't always the ones on horseback. Sometimes they're the ones no one sees coming, the ones written off, silenced, forgotten. And when they rise,
They don't just change the story, they redefine it. Elizabeth Dutton might be the one character everyone overlooked, but she might also be the character that redefines the entire future of the Yellowstone franchise. Is she the mother of a hidden heir? Could her child be the one who bridges the 1923 world with the present-day Yellowstone drama? Could we be on the verge of a reveal that reshapes the Dutton family tree forever? The clues are there. The setup is perfect. And the silence around her story? That's the biggest signal of all. In Yellowstone, nothing is forgotten. Not really. So we're digging deeper. We're chasing the truth behind that quiet exit, behind those tear-stained eyes, behind that final solitary walk. We're uncovering the theory that no one's talking about, but everyone should be. Elizabeth Dutton's journey could be the next great frontier of this story, a hidden saga of survival, of grief, of strength, of a mother willing to protect the last piece of a broken dream, a woman pushed to the edge who refuses to let that be the end, and maybe, just maybe, Taylor Sheridan is getting ready to drop the twist of a lifetime. Because when you think about it, it all makes sense. The show spent time building Elizabeth's relationship with Jack. They gave her screen time, depth, love, tragedy, and then just like that, they let her go? Number, that's not how Yellowstone works. Characters don't disappear in silence unless they're meant to return with fire. So if you're feeling that chill, that ache, that sense that something's coming, it's because it is. The next chapter might not begin with a gunshot. It might begin with a child's cry, a mother's resolve, and the name Dutton being whispered not in power, but in pain. And that pain, it's going to rewrite everything. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, because this isn't just a theory, this is a reckoning, and we're about to follow the trail that could blow open the entire Yellowstone universe. Elizabeth Dutton's story didn't end when she walked away. It started. And we're going to follow every step of the way, because in a world where legacies are forged in blood and names are written in land, sometimes the most powerful stories begin in silence. And now, that silence is breaking. Welcome to the mystery of Elizabeth Dutton, the most important character you forgot, and the one who might just decide everything. We've seen gunfights, we've seen betrayals, we've watched dynasties rise and fall under the weight of cattle wars, political backstabbing, and land soaked in blood. But what if the biggest twist Yellowstone has ever crafted isn't about land at all? What if it's about life? A life that's been quietly growing, hidden from the chaos, hidden from the ranch, and hidden from us. Until now. Elizabeth's walk away wasn't just an exit. It was a departure into the unknown. A quiet rebellion against a world that didn't have room for her grief, or her child. While the Dutton men saddle up to face enemies at the gates, she turned inward, carrying a burden heavier than any rifle. She was carrying hope, and nobody noticed. And that is the emotional storm Yellowstone hasn't unleashed yet. She isn't just a widow. She isn't just a side character. Elizabeth Dutton is a symbol of everything the Duttons claim to fight for: family, survival, legacy, but they let her walk away. So maybe the ranch isn't what preserves the name. Maybe she is. Now imagine this. It's years later. The world has changed. The Great Depression is tightening its grip. The West is no longer wild. It's desperate. Somewhere out there, Elizabeth is still alive. Maybe she's working on a small piece of land. Maybe she's alone, hardened, haunted by the memory of Jack. Or maybe, just maybe, she's raising a boy. Or a girl. With Jack's eyes. With Dutton blood in their veins. And they have no idea who they really are. They don't know about the ranch. About the war. About the price paid in blood for every inch of Yellowstone soil. But one day, they will. Because Sheridan's storytelling doesn't forget. He plants, he waits, and then he ignites. Elizabeth's child could be the hidden branch of the Dutton tree that no one saw coming, a game changer in the war for the ranch, a rightful heir, a legacy reborn not through force but through love, loss, and survival. And when that fuse is lit, when that reveal drops, when the child of Jack and Elizabeth Dutton returns to claim their place in the story, it's not just a twist, it's retribution. It's poetic justice for every time Elizabeth was ignored, every time she cried alone, every time the Duttons turned inward and left her outside the gates. You see, Sheridan knows something that most stories forget. True strength doesn't always look like a cowboy with a gun. Sometimes it looks like a woman, shattered, grieving, who still finds the courage to move forward, to protect what's left, to rise. And when she does, it doesn't just make her a survivor, it makes her the heart of the Dutton legacy. So let's stop pretending her story is over. Let's stop pretending the silence around her is coincidence. And let's start preparing for what's coming. Because there's a storm on the horizon, and its name might just be Elizabeth. Imagine a new series, a spin-off, a time jump, A return to 1923 from a whole new perspective. Hers, the untold chapter. A story of grit, loneliness, perseverance, and the ultimate mother's journey through grief, betrayal, and possibly redemption. What if we follow her path across the frontier? What if we see the battles she fought, not with bullets, but with hunger, with sickness, with heartbreak? What if we witness the moment her child is born into a world that never wanted them to survive, and yet they do? That's the Yellowstone we haven't seen yet, and it's the story we need to see. So the next time someone says, "She just walked off," you look them in the eye and tell them the truth. She didn't walk off. She walked into destiny. And Taylor Sheridan? He doesn't write endings like that unless they're the start of something huge. So stick with us, because this rabbit hole runs deep, deeper than the family tree, deeper than the Yellowstone River. And somewhere at the bottom of it all, Elizabeth Dutton is waiting, and she's not done.